Okay, so the rule that we're working with on this entire sheet is if you have division, so let's say I have x to the 4th over x to the 7th. Okay, this is subtraction. So you're going to grab a calculator today. I'm going to ask you to use a calculator. I know you're going to be like, I know what that subtraction is. Do it anyway. Just appease me. Just grab a calculator. 4 minus 7 is negative 3. Because it's negative, you're going to put it in the bottom. When you put it in the bottom, are you actually going to write the negative?
Of course you are.
No. So this is what's happening here. When you subtract those, you get x to be negative 3. Then, because it's a negative, you have to move it to the bottom. We're just skipping that middle step where you have to write that down. So if you don't want to write that down, you don't have to, but when you write it in the bottom, make sure you write it as a positive, okay? So that's the rule that we're working with pretty much all throughout this paper, yeah.
Every single time you write on the top, like 4 minus 7,
Yes.
write the answer on the top first.
You don't have to, that's what I'm saying. You can skip this because you get a negative in your calculator. This is what's happening. You don't have to write that if you don't want. And then we're going to move it to the bottom because it was negative. Okay, let's do a couple examples over here and you'll see what I mean, okay? First one. Okay, so take 8 in your calculator, 8 minus 15.
That's negative 7.
So because you get, this is what you don't have to write down, you get negative 7.
Right on the bottom.
Because you got a negative 7, we're going to write that in the bottom. You do not have to write this step. Can you write the step? Yes. Yes, if you want to, go ahead. You would always, whatever you type in, that would always go on the top.
Negative 7 minus 7.
You could put a 1 on the bottom, or you can put nothing on the bottom. Okay, so I think that answers your question. So over here on number 2,
It's 3 over 1.
so if you take, just to give me a second, grab a calculator, okay? Because what's going to happen is someone in the room is going to think to themselves that that answer is negative 2. It's not negative 2. It's 3 minus a negative 5. Yep, so this is x to the 3 minus negative 5, which would give you x to the 8.
X8.
Should you move that x to the 8?
No.
No, because it's not a negative. So I leave that there. So your question was, what do you put on the bottom? You have 2 choices. You can put a 1 on the bottom, or you could just not. You don't have to put anything on the bottom if you don't want. You do have to put something on the top if there's something missing in the top. Okay? Okay, let's go down to the next one. So that right there is 2 questions. That's 2 questions out of 8.
That's
Okay?
1.5.
That's not yet. Not yet. Okay, we're going to add on one more question here. This one here. And if we can get this question, we're at a 1.
Yay.
Yay. Okay, here we go. So, these 2 numbers that are on the outside,
3 and 2.
okay, what you are doing with those is you are reducing or dividing them. Okay, somebody in the room is going to subtract them.
Well, then they're not.
We do not want to subtract, we want to divide. That's 3 over 1. I'm going to write that over here. Okay, now grab a calculator. Negative 7 minus 10.
Negative 17.
Negative 17. Where should you write that?
On the bottom.
On the bottom. So we got negative 17. If you wanted to, you could write that I got negative 17. Then you would have to take another step, leave the 3 on the top, and then bring that 17 down to the bottom. What I'm saying is you can skip that step, and when you get a negative in your calculator, you can just know to write that in the bottom. If it does not reduce, like the next one, you do not reduce them. We're going to leave it. So can you divide 4 and 15?
No.
No, there's nothing I can do there. So I'm gonna leave it as a 4 on the top
And 15
and a 15 on the bottom.
4 is to the 10.
Close.
9, 9.
There we go. 8 minus a negative 1
9.
is 9. So really the only thing I was doing there was working with the x's. Okay? Do you know what this one would be? V3, v to the third power. 7 minus 4 is 3. V to the third.
That was
You now have a 2,
Yeah.
right? 2 is passing. 2 means that you don't have to come in for RTI. So, yay! So how do I get a 2.5? How do I get a 3, right? Let's talk about that. Oh, let's do this next one. Sorry, let's do this next one real quick. 4 and 14. Can you reduce 4 and 14?
No.
2.
You can't reduce 4 and 14?
No.
Yes.
You can divide them by 2. They're both even numbers. I can take them down by 2.
If they're both even numbers, you can always reduce.
So a 2 and a 7. Now this
Good
came
job,
up.
Remy.
This came up in our on our quiz here. What happens if there's a nothing there? I mean it's
You don't do anything there.
it's a 1.
Oh, you do something.
It's a 1, so I do actually subtract. 4 minus 1 is 3.
It goes on the top.
Okay. All right. Sorry, we did that last one. Now let's talk about a 2.5 and or a 3. Okay. Okay. Now, I see right here that there are 4 questions, right, that are all crazy, right? There's only one of these on the test. Okay. You get this one question right, and you got a 2.5. We have 4 chances to practice it together. That's what that is. Okay. So don't freak out. You don't have to do 4 of them on the test. There's one. We're just going to practice it a couple times together, all right? Okay, first thing, when you give this exponent of 2, make sure you give it out to every number, okay? Including the big number. This big number 2 gets an exponent of 2.
2x6.
Okay, hang on. What about the x? What do you do with these exponents here?
You multiply them.
You multiply them. When you have that parentheses, that's multiplication right there with those little exponents. Okay, so that's going to be x to the 6th.
So what about your really, really big X?
Okay, now, on the bottom, let's talk about the bottom here. Is this just negative 6?
It's the S is
No, you got to give that one as well.
Yeah.
So we're going to take that one to the 2nd power as well. So that's negative 12.
Oh, so we don't do anything.
Okay, now let's worry about it. But wait a minute. For our x's, what's 2 to the 2nd power?
4.
Okay, let's do that part first.
That was your hand.
And it's 8.
Okay, now this is subtraction, right? With the x's, I'm doing subtraction. What is 6, use the calculator, minus a negative 12?
Positive 8.
Positive 18. Wait, top or bottom? It was positive, so I'm going to put it on the top. Wait a minute. So what's on the bottom?
Nothing.
You can circle it, or you can put a 1 on the bottom. That's up to you.
Don't circle it,
Okay.
okay?
Okay, let's do number 8.
And 40.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and multiply in 8 times 5. These exponents get multiplied. Ooh, it's going to get big. N 40. Okay, then this 2. Don't forget the 2. Everything on the bottom gets an 8 also. That gets an exponent of 8 also. So 2 gets an 8 exponent.
2 to the
N,
Oh dear.
8 times 8, that's 64. Okay, now, before we start shouting out answers here, we're going to type that in. 2 to the 8th power. That is 256. Now, time out. Where is that 256?
At the bottom.
It is on the bottom, but it's positive. No. We're not subtracting exponents right now. All we did was type a number into the calculator, and so wherever that number is, that number stays. So right here, this 2 to the 8th, I just figured that out. Write it over here, 256. Now is where we subtract and we decide where that thing is going to go.
The N24 on the bottom.
Okay, so is that what you got when you did 40 minus 64?
Yeah, it came out at
Negative 24. Okay, so that's N
Put it on the bottom too.
24.
Put one on top.
You gotta get a 1 on the top there. Okay? Okay, I'm gonna stall for a minute. I'm gonna go super slow. I'm gonna take some attendance here real quick. I want you to try to do number 9 by yourself.
Hard.
Yes, it's hard.
Alright, so the two answers that we got was x to the 30th over 32, and then 1 over 4p to the 26. Okay? That gets you to that 2.53 range. Okay? How do I get a 3.5 or how do I get a 4? That's the next little piece. Okay? So what I've got right here, again, I've got 4 questions that are like it, but I want to do number 11 and I want to do 13. Okay? Because 13, there's a question very similar to this on the quiz. Okay? That has multiple, so it's kind of like this question and this question. Those two together would get you to that 4 range. Okay? You get to this question on the test and you're thinking like, oh, that's too hard. Give it a try anyway. You might get lucky, right? It might give you some extra points. The one on the test that's like this actually doesn't have any numbers, so we're kind of doing a little extra here, which is fine.
It's not fun.
So this is what we did when we did the question before. We made it over 1, so it was like all one big fraction. Okay, so I've got 7a to the negative 7 on the top, and we're going to multiply that times 2a to the 10th. Right now, I don't even want you to look at what's going on the bottom. Don't even look at that. Okay? Everybody should be able to do just that multiplication. 7 times 2, that's 14. And then we're going to add the exponents.
I think we didn't put up these dividers.
Negative 7 and 10 is a to the 3rd power. Okay? Now let's worry about what's on the bottom. On the bottom, I've still got this 10a to the 1st. Negative 1st, sorry. Okay, before you start figuring out what to do with the a's, take a time out.
It's 7 over 5, a4.
Can you reduce?
No. Yes. Divide by 2.
Yeah, so you're going to have one step that's going to get it to something that it looked like above. Okay, that's why it's kind of like that level 3, level 4, because you have to do something first, and then it looks like a question from above. Okay, reduce that to be 7 on the top, 5 on the bottom. Okay, please don't subtract those big numbers. Okay, when we've been talking about kind of like our please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, right? If you see division, the big numbers, the coefficients get divided, the exponents get subtracted. So make sure you're not doing the same thing for both the big numbers and the exponents. 7a to the
4th.
yes, 4th. There we go. So this a right here, if we go 3 minus a negative 1, that's 4. So we're subtracting those exponents. You said 5 on accident, but that was just because the 5 was coming. Okay. All right, one more. So this one kicks it up one more notch. So before we do what we just did, we have to give everything a power of 3.
Yeah.
Okay? So you just have to hand out that power of 3 first.
Give it to the 2.
Yep, even to the 2. It's a good question.
2.
So we're giving it to the 2, multiply it times the 4, multiply it times the 6.
Dang it.
So 2 to the 3rd,
8 to the 12, b to the 18.
A12, B18. Now, before I do anything with that, I'm going to go ahead and just rewrite 2a to the negative 4.
How?
and then B4. I'm just rewriting that